Previously on agentpalmer.com, Danny Trejo's new cookbook is a love letter to L.A. It was nice to meet Bernard Samson in Berlin Game, and I failed to mention last week that Zapata was the first return guest of this podcast. This is the Palmer Files, episode 26, with my friend Chris Hughes. This is the second of 4 episodes discussing friendship by examining one up close. Are you ready? Let's do the show. Hello and welcome to the Palmer Files. I'm your host, Jason Stershic, also known as Agent Palmer, and on this 26th episode is the second of 4 episodes about friendship, continuing with a friend from college. All male friendships are essentially quixotic. They last only so long as each man is willing to polish the shaving bowl helmet, climb on his donkey, and ride off after the other in pursuit of elusive glory and questionable adventure. That quote comes from Michael Chabon's novel Wonder Boys, which is apt for my friend and guest of honor, Chris Hughes. The novel itself is set around a small college, which is the setting where I met Chris, and the part about elusive glory and questionable adventure, well, you'll get there as the episode moves along. What you are about to hear is simple and yet complex. This episode, and the others like it, all contain 4 main questions. Why are we friends? How did we meet? How did we become friends? Why are we still friends? Through the answers to those questions, the discussions, and the stories that ensue, Chris and I will dive deep into our shared past and the meaning of, and perhaps reason for, our friendship. Before we get into it, remember that if you want to discuss this episode as you listen or after, you can tweet me at Agent Palmer, the show at The Palmer Files, or Chris at TriforceDad1984, which is also his handle on Instagram and where you can watch him stream on Twitch. That's TriforceDad1984. Email can be sent to the show at thepalmerfiles@gmail.com, and don't forget you can see all of my writings and rantings on agentpalmer.com. So without further ado, let's get into it. Chris, why are we friends?
That's a great question. I think that we are friends because time has not thrown us apart, and because we're willing to support and improve each other's crazy ideas.
Are they crazy, though?
Many of them are.
Okay. Hey, that's fair, man. Like, we, as people will find out if we cover everything, like, we've done some shit.
Yeah, we got some ground, so let's not give them everything. But, yeah, I mean, not every idea we've had is crazy, but, like, we've definitely done out-of-the-box things that, like, a lesser person, or let's even say a lesser friend, would be like, you're ridiculous. Why would you think about doing this? Why would you want to spend your time on this? No, I'm out. That is not what you and I have built. You and I, it sounds corny, but we kind of nurture and like we water the garden of each other's ridiculousness. So
yeah, it's always been a challenge, not a put down, right? It's like, I want to do this, and it's like, well, why? Or like, well, maybe.
Or if you did this, it could be better.
Yeah,
like,
yeah, but it's never been like, no.
I don't think there's ever been a no. There's definitely been a not right now.
Yes.
And especially like because
there's been a lot of not right nows.
And especially because like I'm sure we'll talk about this, but like you're the planner of the two of us. You can see 3 months into the future where I can't see 3 days ahead of me. I can't see Tuesday from here because I don't know what's going to happen.
How many countless times? I mean, I'm trying to think of like a number, but it's like I feel like 1 in every 4 phone calls that we have is you going, "Come back
Hold
to
on.
me."
Yeah.
We're not that. We're not. That's a problem
if I
for
had
future
$1
me.
for every time I had to tell you I'm not there yet, we would both be retired.
We would be like 3 times over retired.
Yeah. Oh.
All right, time to go back to the beginning. Chris, how did we meet?
So we met as college students. I started college at a small private college in northeastern Pennsylvania. I don't know. Do you name drop?
I have already name dropped.
All right. So we met when I started at Keystone College. I don't remember what your role was in 2002, but you were sort of like a big man on campus. You were well known. I don't know that you were well respected. You were definitely some kind of troublemaker. But like you were like the quintessential, like, holy shit, it's that guy on a college campus that I had seen in so many movies. You had long hair, you had a bomb ass beard, you had a flying V guitar, and you had the best nickname because everybody on campus at that time in your life called you Jesus.
It's true. It's true.
And how do you, being raised Catholic, how do you not try to become friends with Jesus?
Well, so if the yearbook and a few pictures are to be believed, the first time we met was actually at your orientation, because that year I was an orientation counselor.
Yeah, an OTL. Yeah.
As I mean, that was the year I was everything, but like it started before everything started. So, because there's a picture in one of the yearbooks somewhere of me overlooking a group of pre-freshmen, and you are in that group.
Wow. But you know what? Knowing my personality at that time, that makes enough sense. I would have sought out, like, I don't know if advice is the right word or guidance is the right word, but I would have sought out that sort of person that was an OTL and like that I could try to connect with to try and feel more comfortable on campus. So that makes sense, but I didn't remember that.
Yeah, I have. I don't know why I remember that. I think it's because I was also kind of on the yearbook, so I remember pictures and stuff. Because visually the memory is easier. Like, it's easier. Like, I don't remember the day, right? But I remember. I have, because it's been 16 years since I graduated, almost 20 years since I've known you. Like, I remember the picture in the yearbook more than the actual day of the picture.
Well, and it's funny because like you would have been easier to pick out in a crowd than I would have been.
You remember that year we had tie-dye orientation counselor shirts too. So the long hair and the beard with the tie-dye, like I was the only one who didn't look out of place in that uniform.
Yeah, right? Like you looked like you walked out of a 1960s yearbook instead of a 2000 one. Yeah.
So this is where I always get a blur. Why we're friends is one thing, and how we met is another. But how did we become friends from that? You know what I mean? Because like we meet, and then you obviously come to, we met at orientation. Then you actually come to campus, and you're living on campus. But it's not like you get there on day one and we're friends. Like that's. But I don't know how it transpires, because before the end of that first semester, I can list all, like, you're eating Easy Mac in my room. I'm waking you up for class attempting to wake you up for class
and
in the
failing.
morning. Like we're playing video games together. Like all of these things by the end of the semester. But I don't know how that happens.
Yeah, and like I've been trying to think about it because you gave me the pre-press conference prepper, right? And I appreciate that. But I think what it was is we kind of fell into this circle of other people that I think we're still fortunate to be connected to in some way, shape, or form. And interestingly enough, due to some recent tomfoolery that we've gotten involved in, we've been able to reconnect with some of those folks. But if I had to guess, it was probably a combination of meeting the girl who is now my wife and the friendship circle that she had developed while she was living in a different hall. And then just like you were part of a bigger group of people on campus that I also really connected with. And I think that shared group of friends and that, also living on a college campus there, especially a college campus, I don't think Keystone had a huge capacity for residential students. So there were certain people that we saw all of the time. Yeah, I make the joke because I pick on you all the time because we've been friends for almost 20 years. But, there's a Simpsons episode where Bart starts dating Rainier Wolfcastle's daughter. And he brings Milhouse over to the house to go swimming. And Milhouse appears out of the bushes. And he's like, Bart says, "Oh, this is my best friend because physical proximity." And so we were all together all the time. And because we were together all the time and didn't drive each other absolutely crazy, I think that might be part of it. But you were definitely, when there were a lot of things that happened that came to a head in the second semester, I will say, because, you can become friends, but I think you stay friends for a different reason. And I hope I'm not stepping on another of your questions.
Well, we'll get to that. But I guess the question becomes all right, so it's physical proximity. It's kind of shared interests, although it's shared interest is a cop out. And I will say that because that whole group had fairly similar interest. I think what ends up happening is somehow it's in the stars, our other, the intangibles, in sports, it's he's tall, he's fast, but he's got the intangibles, right? You and I, our intangibles lined up. We didn't know it at the time. We know it now, right? Our creative pursuits, our creative passions, our workaholic mentalities, all of these things, right? That in hindsight, we can start naming them off. And there's a ton more I'm leaving out. But at that time, they're the intangibles because we aren't thinking about them and we aren't really living up to those things. But those lined up for us more than they did for anyone else. And it's just kind of that's the way it was. And it's weird because if you were to give a TED talk on how do you become friends with someone, you wouldn't say, think about your intangibles. That's such a weird, I agree with you wholeheartedly in sentiment, but we're talking about friendship and not necessarily how you become friends with other people. Yeah. This isn't a self-help seminar, but yeah, you're absolutely right. I think there were just so many different things that crossed over, and there were a lot of things that didn't cross over. As I came to learn more about you, you were a runner in high school. I was a soccer player. You played guitar well. I played guitar not so well. There's there's all of those things, but they lined up. I mean, just I'll springboard off of those two things. One, we played together many, many times. You're the better singer, but we've also just jammed together. Better than me. You're the better of the two of us.
I'm giving you the.
I know you're giving me the maybe, but of the two of us, you are the better singer.
Fair.
We've jammed together.
Better is relative. Better is relative.
Both switching off on bass or guitar or both or what have you.
Yeah.
And I remember years ago, I literally drove up to see you and ran with you for a weekend when you were attempting to train for a marathon.
Oh my God, that was so long ago. Yeah.
Because you were like, hey, I think I'm going to do this. And I was like, well, I'm not doing anything for the next couple of days. I'll come up and run with you.
Yeah. I don't think you were as far away physically now as you were, or I think you were closer then than you are now.
No, I was down here at that point.
Were you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. That was, but that was again, and I mean, I talk about pre and post me in these episodes because it's something I can say. And you're the last pre, right? You're the so Zapata knew me before Israel. Yep. You're the person who knows me before Palmer and before Anxiety. Everybody else is knowing me after Anxiety and after Paul, or as a result of Palmer. So it's one of those things that, like, that was pre-Anxiety. That was when I could do anything and I could travel without cause or warrant. And it's, I came up when look, what happens? Let's go. Let's try and stay on the trajectory. What happens that second semester, Chris?
So part of our friendship overlaps with the rest of my life, which, I mean, friendship kind of does, but like in a very unique and inseparable way, right? So when I got to Keystone, you were one of the first people I saw. And then one of the second people I saw continues to knock me off my feet every single day of my life, and I'm thankful for that, because I met my wife at Keystone. Didn't get a degree, got the best wife on the planet. So
it's a solid trade, man.
Solid trade, because who's doing what with an art degree right now, unless you got a business degree to back it up? But that's another topic for another time. So
yeah, that's a follow-up podcast of like why not to get an art degree.
Yeah, I could have a lot of opinions on that one. So I first saw Lindsay ever in the art barn at Keystone College, and like looked at her and said, "That was it. That's it." And I've been fortunate because for the last 17 years, it's been it. But in her second semester, she moved from the dorm where she was, the residence hall. I'm going to use proper terminology because the dorm is just where you shit and sleep, according to like military terminology.
Fine.
A residence hall is where you live and grow as a person. Sorry, my college PR guy is
there was definitely a lot of living and some growth.
So Lindsay's second semester, she moved in with a person who was your significant other at the time.
Yes, indeed.
And but before that second semester had started, Lindsay and I had spent what I'll politely refer to as quality time together.
Yep.
And that's college code for something very different. But so long story short, almost to the end of our second semester, we found out that Lindsay was pregnant with our daughter. So that was a significant turning point. When Taryn was born, I was 19.
Yeah. So we got to stop for a second because.
Okay.
I remember vividly one night, and it would have had to have been the fall semester before, within the last trimester when Lindsay was due.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember we were back on campus, and we were in my room, and it was probably, I don't know, like I know it was dark outside, and we talked for like hours.
Yeah, probably until it was daylight.
Your apprehensions, I don't want to say they were concerns because they weren't, but like fatherhood. Am I ready for this? And this and that.
Well,
and
yeah, because I was 19.
No, I get that, and I like the fact that I get to sit here, and I've been able to sit here and go, I was right. You were ready. You were gonna be a good dad. Like,
but who then could possibly think in their own right mind?
Well, that's fine. I mean, look, I'm a little older than you, not by much, but like I was the one who was like, "You'll be fine." Like, because I think even at that point, I would have been honest with you, like, it's going to be a rocky road. But it wasn't. Right. Like, it was going to be easy for you.
But even still, like, and you had touched on this, like, I was failing to be awake for class. Like, I was, let's be completely transparent. I almost failed out of being an art student.
Which, by the way, parallel lines, my freshman year, my first semester, my freshman year, I got put on academic probation for the second semester, not because of my grades, but because I failed to go to any morning class.
Well, right. And like I obviously, very obviously, in my second and third semester had way more going on than your run-of-the-mill college student. So, yes. And I'm not defending my actions, but... No. Yeah, was I not completing assignments? Was I missing class? Absolutely.
No, but, I'll at least when it came to art, because you would bring your stuff over to my room because we didn't live in the same residence hall, and right. and I would write a paper, and then I would start playing video games, and you would be doing art, and I was at least in one of these scenarios, I had my own room. And like you would crash on the couch and I would wake you up and you'd be like, all right, I'm going back to my room. Call me for breakfast. And I would wake up and I would call you at 8. I would call you at 8:30. And then by the time I'd get through, because I had stuff to do, I'd call you again at 11 and you'd be like, hi. And I'd be like, are you coming to lunch? Like that was a like
friendship.
This isn't me remembering one moment in time, like that was a regular occurrence.
Yeah.
Which is how we get to and look, the video games, like, so at the time we were both playing video games. In fact, I remember a very, 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 very odd Smash Brothers tournament where we won because I hid on the corner in the side of the screen while you did all the heavy lifting, and I was just like, I'm here.
Ness for the win. Ness main since early 2000s.
But like Animal Crossing hit that campus hard.
Yeah, but you know what? What also hit that campus hard was Wind Waker when our friend Jay, not you, modded his GameCube to play Japanese games played through the entirety of Wind Waker, not knowing a single word of what happened.
And we all crowded in. Yeah, we just watched like before Twitch. Before Twitch, we were like, and we were
the OG Twitch streamer,
and we were our own commentary because it was like, I recognize those characters from 10 minutes ago. I don't,
Or why are those characters red? Like, because they didn't do they made key points in the text in Wind Waker very obvious, but yeah.
So all of this, and we were basically roommates without actually living together, right? Like I would go shopping with some friends to like big box stores and it'd be like, hey Chris, you want me to pick up some more Easy Mac?
Well, and to the point, and should we talk about your car for a moment? Should we get there?
Well, all right, so let's get back to the storyline. We had that conversation about your apprehensions about fatherhood, and I was like, you'll be fine. And then we get to October, around the due date time, and
exactly the due date. Well, around the due date.
Around the due date time, and it's kind, she's in the hospital, which is now she's in the hospital 2 blocks from where I was living where my parents were at that time, and you and I stayed up. I want to say almost till like 3 a.m. waiting for quote unquote the call. And,
it was fun. So you're remembering it a little bit differently. So she had not gone to the hospital, but she was like, the day before, like we're talking October 5th, 2003. Like, she was in a lot of pain. She thought she might have been having contractions, all this kind of stuff. And like, we stayed up. Well, I remember we did stay up waiting.
Okay.
Because we thought, because, and like, not that anybody ever any new mom gives birth on their due date, but, she did. So it was October 6th was the due date. And we waited because we're like, all right, maybe it's coming. Maybe it's actually the due date.
And at about, because Lindsay and whoever was with her were given 2 numbers, right? They were given my room, because we were staying up, and they were given your room as a backup. And about 3, I don't know, I want to say about 3 or 2 or 3 or 4 a.m. like we gave up, like we were like, all right, we're going to sleep. And then, of course, that's when the call comes, right? So
so about 7:30 that morning, I get a call from my now mother-in-law, who at the time probably had very little taste for me. But who could blame her? And I almost remember the conversation verbatim, which is, Lindsay and I are at the hospital. You better get here.
Yep.
And if that wasn't exactly the words, it was definitely the tone. And you had given me a key, not only to your residence hall, but to your room.
Yep.
And, I knocked. I was polite. I didn't just kick in the door. Although I would, after all this time, I would now. And I said, hey, I got the call. I got to go. And you were like, the keys are on the dresser. And I was like, okay, or the desk or whatever it was. The keys are on the desk next to the laptop. And you let me drive your green Jeep.
Yep.
Through the back roads. I think I went up 247 because we figured out that was the fastest route. And, got to the hospital in time, and it was good that I left when I did, because the nurses didn't believe her. They were like, "It's your first pregnancy. You're not in labor." And about 3 hours later, Taryn was born. Like 3 hours after I had gotten there, Taryn was born. So,
yeah, I remember going this is how I know how old your daughter is, because the next day you came back, obviously, at a certain point, and then we took you up, me and my significant other at the time took you up again hey, everybody get, let's see the baby. And that was the night Bartman happened, which is how I know Taryn was born in 2003, because I'm that guy.
What? I don't remember. What are you talking about?
Well, you wouldn't. Look, we did bond over sports and stuff, but like, I was the one I was following it. So that was when the Marlins were playing the Cubs, and the fan reached over. That was either the night before, the night of, and the night after we went up to visit Taryn for the first time.
Okay.
I went up to see Taryn for the first time. So that's how I know it was 2003.
What is Bartman?
Because Bartman that's the guy who reached out.
Oh,
that's the guy who stole the ball from Moises Alou. These are the things I remember. I also remember Taryn falling asleep in my arms during the one of the World Cups subsequently in one of the apartments, and the U.S. was winning a game, and you're like, no, I'll put her to bed. And I'm like, no, she's fine. We're winning. And then you put her into her bed, and we gave up 2 goals and lost. And I blamed you for that World Cup loss because Taryn was sleeping and fine.
Yeah, who knew I had a rally baby, right?
Hey, you know what? I mean,
You called it.
I'm just, things.
You're the sports guy.
I am, but you know what? So there are other things, but I want... for college that we'll get to, but I want to diverge because we became sports people for a bit.
We did.
Because at the time it was the Scranton Wilkes-Barre Red Barons.
Red Barons.
They were at that time the affiliate of the Philadelphia Phillies, and we went regularly enough games that we started to know people on the team, and that was the year that. And look. For anybody who wants like a little extra detail, Lackawanna County Stadium, which is what it was called at the time, was still modeled after the Veterans Stadium. So it had, I don't want to say AstroTurf. It had like cement painted green. But whenever a ball was hit for a double, the stadium announcer would play the Venga Bus.
The Venga Bus.
And they had an amazing team.
Bus is coming.
And one of our favorite players while we were following them to give some time was Chase Utley. And after one game, and I don't remember what game, or I don't even remember why this was a thing we decided to do, but we showed up early. We showed up for batting practice. We both got a ball from batting practice.
A loose ball.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so we're like, all right, we're gonna get this signed. And after the game, because it was after the game, it wasn't like during.
I don't remember. I thought we got him coming into the dugout.
No, I think it was after
batting practice.
No, I'm pretty sure it was after the game.
Regardless of timing,
but we got Chase Utley's autograph. And I also remember a game where, because this is a thing that will date us completely, the giveaway. And it rained that night, but the giveaway was a umbrella, a full size, not like like a full size umbrella. And we got it, and then we used it, and then the game got called, and we went home. Like it's.
So we gamed the Great Wilkes-Barre Red Barons that night.
But I mean, so we've done all these things, and it's.
Yeah, even after the fact, and I'll fast forward a little bit, but not too far, because basically what had happened was one of my final semesters at Keystone, I had taken a speech class, and much to his chagrin, my advisor had suggested I seek out communications as a profession. Shout out Dave Porter, thank you, you saved me. But so I had at some point or another become a reporter. I worked my way up. And I don't want to skip too far ahead, but there was a time when they were talking about tearing down what was Lackawanna County Stadium and turning it into more of a minor league baseball destination, which was par for the course for the time. And I came down and talked to some of the folks from your local organization, the Lehigh Valley Iron Pigs, and we spent a night at the ballpark again, and it was like old times. We talked to the GM. I was wearing multiple hats then. It was a little different.
But that was a great day because you came down early. Like we spent the day together, man. It was.
I'm on
fantastic.
assignment in Allentown today. Well, I was the editor of the paper I was at the time. And I think I was 25. So, I was definitely more destined for a career in communications than I was in art.
And for at least a good 2 years, the picture you took of sunset at the ballpark was one of my backgrounds.
Yeah, that was good.
Wallpapers. Yeah.
Yeah. That was my cover shot that week.
So he might have eventually moved to communications, but I was already in communications. And my senior year, I harangued you. Because if there's anything I've been good at over the years, it's making Chris do things he doesn't quite want to do, or making him agree to things that he will eventually regret saying yes to.
Yeah, live to regret. Yeah.
So the first one I will talk about is not even the senior project. We will get there. There is a worse scenario than that, which is I was playing a video game.
Oh, I was
playing a video game.
Fucking thing.
And in said video game, which is Skies of Arcadia, one of my favorites, it comes to a point where, and I didn't know this at the time, you're supposed to lose. Like that's a thing that happens. There's a boss, you're supposed to lose.
The Red Giga.
In the desert. And what happens is I lost, like you were doing homework in my room.
My blood pressure rising.
You were doing homework in my room as I'm playing this, and I lose the first time.
You were trying every trick.
I lose the second time. I lose the third. I'm just like, ugh. And I'm not
like we didn't just lose. We're like this fucking boss. We're gonna reset. We're gonna beat him.
Well, because after like the fourth or fifth time, you started to become invested, and it's one of those things where, because of the way the GameCube's set up, when we lose, we immediately hit the reset button and start over. Because that we were at a point where that was the save point, was right there before the boss. And at a certain point, like, you started playing, and we couldn't get it. And then, like, this is before we thought to check. Like, at that point, GameFAQs is a thing, but it's not a thing we're using all the time. And I think at one point, like, we lost.
There were no YouTube tutorials.
No. So at a certain point, we lost, and we just kind of let it run, and it wasn't it wasn't a game over screen.
There
like
was
we
no
thought
game
we
over
were
screen.
avoiding. And at that point, you were like, I hate this game. I hate this game. I hate this game.
Because you were supposed to lose.
Look,
when are you ever supposed to lose to a boss?
When you're supposed to... Look, you know what? In hindsight, I've had years to think about this because we don't talk about this all that often.
No, because of how it makes me feel emotionally.
But it's ingenious when it comes to video games because a lot of the times, like think about Legend of Zelda, you'll fight Ganon and before you finish him off, he flees. At least in this scenario, the boss isn't running away. The boss is just better than you.
But it goes against, and this is why I love video games, right? If in a traditional sense, and this is why I don't like this game. All right, and so it's the only
part you didn't. You enjoyed the rest of it,
but I'm gonna tell you why. Okay, because and this is gonna sound cheesy and corny and stupid, right? But like I've definitely been in spots either that I've caused myself or that have been caused by the elements around me, where I have had to pick myself up, learn a new skill, convince myself I was stronger, whatever the case might be.
Yeah.
And slay the beast. Right?
Yep.
Playing video games for so long has not only given me the sense of gratification when I couldn't do it in my own life of being the hero and solving the problem. It has embedded in me this mentality that was like, okay, you're not ready for this yet. You can beat this boss. You can pass this sequence, but you don't have the equipment and the skills for it yet. And the reason I think I hate the Red Gigas so much is it was an impenetrable boss. It was a boss that you couldn't beat. And I love video games because I've not yet encountered a boss that I could not or should not beat.
For anybody who's confused, like, you do eventually beat him. But one of the... So that was one where he was kind of sucked in on his own. He just happened to be there and see me struggling and jump in like a good friend. But like a different kind of person... but like a good friend who helps. My senior project was a radio program that, if everything goes well, this will be common knowledge to everyone because I will have already released a solo episode of me remastering said thing. At the time of recording, we're close. At the time of recording, I'm still working on it. But one of the things was that once the script was approved, I had to record it. And I, I'm a podcaster now, right? So like, I know how to tell a story and I know how to talk to no one if I need to. But at that time I wasn't good at it. So I enlisted.
Isn't that what podcasting is? Isn't it talking to no one?
Yes. I mean, I've had a lot of experience. I've had a lot of experience with blogging and writing to no one. So now podcasting is, but then didn't know anything about it. Right. So, and you know what? To a larger extent, I really didn't know anything about it because I was writing for the paper in a big fish, small pond scenario where everything I wrote in the paper, somebody said something about something. Right? I write the headline. I write below the fold. I write.
You're talking about the Keystone paper,
yep.
Right?
I write, and so I'm not used to not having any kind of feedback, right? So I enlist the help of you to be my director, producer, all in one, because it's like, all right, here's my script, and after the first page, so, I mean, because I'm in it, right? It's 72 paragraphs that we have to record, and we numbered them because we recorded it by paragraph using the same program we're using right now.
But a lesser version.
No, same I mean, not version, but 17 years. Audacity hasn't changed.
No, formatted, but at the time we were using a free, because it was like a free and then there was a paid Audacity. Audacity has since gone, like, I don't know if it's considered openware or whatever it is, but it's free. You can download Audacity for free. But when we were using it, you could only log in and use two functions of the program at the same time. So, like, let's say, for example, you wanted to, like, layer tracks. You could do that and something else. So we did your senior project in, like, not only paragraph by paragraph, but, like, by function of the program that we needed to use by function of the program.
But it's not even that, like, put that aside. You, after the first 4 paragraphs, were like, I'm going to read this to you the way you're supposed to read it. And then you're going to read it. And I have, because obviously when I have 25 CDs of backup drafts that we recorded. I don't know how many days, and it was like at night, like, because we needed it to be quiet. My residence hall was an animal house, so, like, we couldn't even start until like 11:30, 12.
Animal house.
So, that's what you got dragged into.
Yeah. So I have the pleasure of saying I got to produce Palmer before anybody else did.
Before I was even a Palmer.
Yeah. You were still a Sturch.
Yep. So,
but I was your first producer.
Yes. And
if sticking around is in friendship, I don't know what is.
I guess as an aside, you were also my first editor. When I started the blog, you were the first person I bounced posts off of for feedback.
Yeah, because how long has Palmer been the blog?
I should know. I think I know I'm over 6 years. I don't know. Probably.
Okay.
I'm probably approaching a milestone, and I should probably. It's 8. I'm gonna guess 8. I don't know.
That's fine. But you had benefited from me having worked on multiple copy desks in multiple newspaper roles. I ran a weekly paper for a little while. Like, so you had the benefit of me going, okay, this is great, but your reader doesn't need it. Even for a blog, like, I was stingy with you.
And what's great is now, because you've read so much of my stuff and we've talked so much, you can now edit things not as a proper editor, but to make me sound like me, which is like the most invaluable thing I will ever have. Like,
if anything ever happened to you, I could probably keep Palmer running and nobody would know, except I don't read nearly as many books as you.
That's fine.
And they would go, where the hell are all the book reviews?
That's fine. So you helped me graduate.
I would say that's fair. And you tried like hell to help me graduate.
I did. In fact, I still remember you can't leave.
Yeah. But I'm gonna say this, okay? I'm gonna say this. Art school is bullshit because art is subjective, not objective. It does not deserve a letter grade or a number grade. And part of my conflict with being an art student wasn't just everything else that was happening in my life at the time. It was the idea that somebody could tell me my interpretation of the world around me or my approach at a self-portrait wasn't worthy enough.
Yes.
Of getting where I needed to be. Yeah, were my lines not always super clean like they are now, thanks to digital processes and stuff like that? Yeah, absolutely. I know there's probably a couple folks, if they're still fortunate enough to be up on that campus, that would eat their hat if they knew I was a graphic designer and I was making artwork live on the internet and for paying clients on a semi-regular basis. I mean, I'm a graphic designer full time, but we also have a lot of fun with the new thing that we've gotten involved in, and I don't want to skip to the end track yet,
well, so I don't know how this comes about. I this is the best of my recollection, right? Because of the experience we had, not just as friends, but working together on that senior project. You started a business.
I did.
And look, I don't remember you saying join me, and I don't remember me being like, I'm in. It just kind of happened.
Right.
As a nebulous thing.
Yeah.
So
because friendship.
You start Lucky John
Media.
And we did CDs together, and I remember being at your house while you were at your day job printing and things.
We had an
discs.
Epson printer that would we bought printable CDs for clients. We had a couple of like local musicians that wanted to do stuff, and so they would get the CDs burned, and we would run them through. And it was an Epson printer that specifically had this thing, and it ran one CD at a time. And if I'm not mistaken, it took a good 5 minutes per CD.
Yeah. So you called me up. I came up. I was in your mom's basement, and it was just kind of like, all right, well, I have a couple days off because I was working retail at the time, and you were just like, all right, I'm going to my job now, and I'm like, all right, I'll be printing CDs. And we did a bunch of those. I left
keys in the mailbox.
Yep. We did a bunch of those. We did a couple menus. The stuff
menus.
The stuff
we had a connection who I'm still. He's one of my second college oldest friends, and he now runs a successful local print shop. Funny enough. But he was originally from the Brooklyn area, and we did so many goddamn menus for unappreciative restaurateurs. I don't know if any of them are still open, and I don't want to talk shit on them, but there's one that's named after a famous swatch of land in the American West.
I still remember the font. I still remember the font.
It's cowboy something, isn't it?
Yeah.
Or just how it looks.
I both. I don't want to.
I can pick it out and go, that's the restaurant. I don't want to badmouth them. But they were. We definitely dealt with our share of obnoxious clients, which inevitably just prepared us for being in the real world.
Yes,
let's be honest.
Because then you had to fold that up.
It wasn't working.
And you folded up, and about a month later, I started my own business because I was like, well, and what ended up happening was nothing changed, right? Like we went from just working together under one name to working together under another. You should have just kept it and just been like, all right, well, you do your thing a bit. Like we could have just been under one. And it's we
already had the LCC. So
and then I got one too. So we're both incorporated separately now because I was like,
for no reason now.
But at a certain point, I came up, I helped you move. Twice.
Yep.
I think
that's friendship. The people you call when you got to move that show up, that's friendship.
And I had a vested interest in it because at the time I was coming up all the time. So like when you moved to a bigger place, like I got I could sleep on a bed again and not a couch.
Yeah, there were definitely secondary benefits for you.
Yes.
So.
Yes. Yeah. And it's look, we've
run a couple of gauntlet. We haven't run a gauntlet. Like we'll run one gauntlet and then go, you want to do it again?
Yeah, we don't learn a lot, right? And what's funny
I don't know that's it. I think because of who we are and how we have grown as adults together, which is scary to say, but it's true. We don't make the process of running a gauntlet painful for each other.
Well, it's what's funny is I said this in the first episode with Zapata, right? Like when I'm with Zapata, it's just like I'm still in high school. Like I don't have all this adult shit. And when I'm with you, it's just like we're back in the dorm room. Like it doesn't feel like we should have a job and like a professional job. And what's worse is you and I have worked around our professional jobs. You had a 37-minute commute,
roughly.
At one point,
Interstate 81. Yeah.
Well, no,
I was talking to Wilkes-Barre.
No, I was thinking about the up the notch when you were going to.
Oh, yeah. I don't know if it was that long, but yeah, maybe with Clark Summit traffic being bad. But yeah, I mean, like
over the course of your professional career, when you weren't living in the same city that you were working in as you are now. You had commutes, and we would talk.
We telecommuted
every morning, and almost if not
we
twice a
accomplished
day.
more on the phone than I probably did in a professional workday most days.
And through when you were going up to Clark Summit, we had to deal with the notch, which was just a dead zone. And it's funny because this is it. Hey bud, working on this design. I'm not sure it's working out well. And you're like, oh well, check the kerning, do this, do that. Hold on, notch coming up. And then just
the call would drop.
Pick
and then we would get back on the fucking notch.
Yeah. And then we'd keep going. But we did so much. I remember running copy by you.
There were 2 dead spots, by the way, because we tried to find another one, and then we discovered I went up a different way to that office, and then I discovered a second dead spot on Grove Street, and I was like, God damn it.
But I used to run copy by you, like before Palmer, like when we would build sites for people and we would write copy, and even for ourselves, it was just like, all right, you're in the car, but you're the best copy editor, so I'm going to read this to you. And you would like just make, all right, is there a comma there? Change that wording. Like we got.
Yeah, I could almost tell how you were writing it based on how you were reading it. And it's funny, my current boss, is I deal with a lot of advertising and marketing stuff in my current job. I won't give too much away yet. But my current boss has coined a term for it. Like when I just when the gears turn on and I just start going, like she calls it my beautiful bullshit, which if that isn't like the next marketing firm you and I start together, I don't know what the hell it is.
Well, that's fair. Yeah. One of my last jobs, you wrote a guest post for us, and it was the only time my boss at that job had looked at something and not had a single edit. And I was
that the Weezer post?
No, this was Crayola.
Or the zoo.
Could have been the zoo.
Crayola.
Yeah, one of them. Because you did a couple, and I was just like, see, I told you he's a good writer. Because I was like, you're not going to have any changes. And she's I don't believe you. And I was like, no, look, it's not just he's my friend, he's a better writer than me, like you'll be fine. You won't
well, and it's funny because I was still a young parent. We were admittedly trying everything we could to make fun, affordable vacations, and you're like, if you write this blog post, I might be able to hook you up with at least some discount tickets. And I was like, that sounds like a great idea, let's try that. And we did. Well, but like you even before that, like we were supporting each other professionally, because there was a time when President Obama was coming to Lehigh Carbon Community College, and I needed a place to crash so that I could make the 5 o'clock in the morning Secret Service security sweep of my equipment, because I was working as an online producer at the time, and we were going to carry. It was the first time he had even come remotely close to our coverage area. We were going to carry it live, and I crashed at your house. I woke up at like 4 o'clock in the morning. I made sure not to wake anybody up at your house, and I made it in time for the security sweep. And so yeah, like even those things where we're like, I'm in closer physical proximity to you, let me help. Like we've always been there.
Well, and even when we haven't been, like I look at you used to draw napkins for your kids.
I did, sure did.
And at the time, we were kind of playing around with some graphic design stuff.
Yep.
I think you had opened a shop, but I was like, well, let's put it somewhere else.
We should do a DeviantArt.
So we got a DeviantArt, and I fell behind because, life. But for a while I was up and because you were doing 2 a day, one for each of your kids.
Yeah. When both kids started school, it was a death knell for both of us.
But like I was like you did the heavy lifting of like actually drawing on the napkin. I went and downloaded the photos and then re-uploaded them to DeviantArt, and it was just I think I did at least a couple hundred. And I was just like, and I tried to separate them. Like you did the My Little Pony, so these are all My Little Ponies, and I'm like texting you
like collections and shit. I'm like, I don't know what you're doing.
I'm like texting you. I'm like, who is this? I don't know. Like I don't know. All right. But we've done this kind of stuff, like passion projects for us Like you being my first editor on Palmer's not out of the realm. I feel like with everything,
it's not out of character at all.
No. And it's weird to have you on the show because like that was a thing that I talked to you about. Like, hey, I'm going on this podcast or this, that, and the other. But it wasn't something I brought you.
More often it was producing. Like you were keeping yourself behind the scenes to help other people realize their passion projects, which is one of the things that I admire about you most.
Or when I would guest, like I didn't bring you into this. Like it was the first time. I mean, look, we talked about it. Like I'd bounce ideas off of you. Like you were, actually everybody in this series was told about this series at the very beginning before I even launched the show. It's one of the endearing things about me that you absolutely love and hate is, hey, okay, all right. So I
had this idea before you recorded episode 1.
I haven't even recorded episode 1, but what if I take all 4 of my closest friends and record like why would and you're like you're
fucking insane.
And what's funny is in that scenario, I can't give you $1 for being ahead because you were just like, okay, well now he's ahead of himself.
Yeah. Yeah. Like you surprised even me at that point. But yeah.
And it's, again, our relationship was living together and then it was the phone and we've adjusted and, the phone has been my lifeline, especially after the anxiety when the travel kind of slipped up and wasn't so much. But even without the anxiety, like when I got the professional full-time job, I wouldn't have been able to come up as often as I was anyway. And it was still like we talk all the time and it's, what do you need? And, not to put and I'm going to keep this as broad as possible to protect us, but like I've called you for work issues and you've called me. Like, it's just like, hey, I got this thing. What would you do? Or whatever. Yeah. And it's just like problem solving that it's like, you're one of my go-tos. And like, I go to all of my friends, but everybody's got their own different skill set. Right. And like, I know that you are more technically, and classically aligned for the skill set of what I do. So if I run into an issue with writing or coding or design, like you're the guy because we overlap there.
You are technically correct. The best kind of correct.
We didn't even get into the pop culture stuff. Like,
oh my God.
I mean, that's a separate thing, but like we watch the same stuff. We like the same stuff. Yep. We listen to a lot of the same stuff. It has been. I
think you and I are the last 2 people who know who Mest is as a band. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. Yeah. I mean, I called you up and I went, they got a new album that I didn't even know dropped.
Huh?
Yeah. Right. It's like, oh, nobody else noticed either, I guess. It's just,
sorry, Mest.
So we've done all this and it continues to this day. It's not just my stuff. I mean, we've talked a lot of it, but it's not one-sided. I help you a little bit more.
Especially now.
I help you a little bit more professionally. So we're not going to get into that necessarily, but now and look, I've been a big proponent of you doing more design work. I'm drinking coffee out of a mug you designed.
Right.
And I've always been like, you've got to do more and you've got to do your own thing. And when you were like, I'm thinking about starting a Twitch, and I was like, let's do it. I'm your mod. Let's go.
Yeah. I mean, without hesitation, you jumped in. And so Twitch is interesting for a couple of reasons, right? Because I hadn't considered Twitch as a thing until the pandemic hit. And I know you don't want these to be dated, but they're going to be out there. Yeah. We're in this for almost 5 months now. So, the pandemic is definitely, it's not a footnote. It's a piece of our history.
Yeah.
And so I started working from home in March and was probably doing more content creation. So full disclosure, I'm a graphic designer and video producer. from the college that I went to after Keystone, which is Lackawanna College. And so that's really rewarding in its own sense because my dad worked there before he passed away. My sister worked there. My degree's from there. I'm pursuing my bachelor's degree from there because I don't know how, but I've been able to ride that associate's degree wave for the last 14 years of my life. So hoorah, buckle up. But I was doing more content creation and stuff like that from home and admittedly struggling with trying to find and maintain an audience for our esports team. And for months we had struggled on YouTube and stuff like that. And, I'd be an hour 12 of a 16-hour day and I'd be like, hey, I'll call you on the way home. And we never really found the audience for it. And so part of me started experimenting with Twitch because I was home, right? I was looking for, I'm very much a social person. It's weird. I'm like an introverted extrovert. I can be comfortable in a crowd, but I love being home with my family. So like being home through the pandemic has not been a hardship for me the way that it may have been for other people. I joked, we were maybe about 3 weeks into the pandemic and one of our media buyers for the college is like, boy, there's going to be a lot of babies born after this thing. I said, yeah, and probably a lot of divorces too. Thankfully, I don't have to worry about either. So we're good on that front. So I was looking for some social connection. And then part of me was looking to prove that Twitch could work as a primary platform for our esports team. And in order to prove that to myself, we started what I'll now refer to as the grand experiment.
Well, it's the grand experiment part 2 for us because my blog started.
It's a grand experiment.
Well, because
we might be on like grand experiment 45. Like we're beyond the years at this point.
Somewhere in there is grand experiment Agent Palmer because that was started so I could get my writing chops back up for my professional job where I was going to have to start blogging, and I hadn't written a lot since college.
Right.
And now that's a thing. Like, so you start the Twitch as an experiment, and recently we made affiliate.
How? Why are 50 people following me?
And it's not why are 50 people following me. It's why is an average of 3 people tuning in every time.
Well, yeah, I guess that was well, yeah, because 2 of them are you and Steph, because you're excellent mods and you're there. And I don't think we artificially boosted the view count, but having you guys have me hovered around 2 towards the beginning definitely helped.
Oh, it definitely helped because then you only need the 1 to push it up and not push it to But it's been
awesome.
It's been what we've always been good at, right? It's promotion. It's some of the behind the scenes stuff, which we do a lot of it on stream.
Yeah.
It's also
we really pull back the thing that I'm really enjoying about what we do on Twitch. And so Twitch is fun for multiple reasons, but months before I had thought about it, my best friend of 25 years, you're my best friend of what are we on? 18?
18. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's just longer than probably most of the people around us would have expected, right? But my best friend of 25 years, we were out drinking one night before all of this nonsense hit with the pandemic, and he said, he's like, you should get a Twitch. He's like, you were like the original Twitch streamer for my little brother and I. Like, whenever we couldn't beat a video game, we would call you over the house and just sit there with our jaws on the floor as we watched you wipe the floor with these bosses. And I was like, oh, that's funny. And so like that kind of was a part of it, aside from the real work motivation. And then, what I really like about, especially the art streams, is we pull back the veil, right? With like there's nothing that happens during an art stream that isn't part of the creative process that either you love the end result or you hate the end result. Like one of the first things.
Funny. Well, here's what's funny about that is that's a process that I've been privy to from the very beginning. Like this is us. This is one of the bases for our friendship.
Well, yeah, because we've seen each other at our lowest self-loathing points.
Because it's been like, all right, we have a design for, like, I remember in particular a design that went very well that a client didn't like.
Oh, which one was that?
I don't want to say it. but it was a nonprofit. It was a nonprofit.
Oh wait, I think.
Yeah.
Ooh, okay. We're like signaling to each other.
Yeah. So he got it right, but the process by which we got to that for ourselves, the design that we pitched, that's what you see on the art streams, and I think that as we build community, that transparency will be, even more.
I think it's
celebrated.
Welcome. I think it's welcome. Like it's like, and I will always remember this. And even though it was it just happened like a month and a half ago, one of the first things we did live on an art stream was we built a logo for a YouTube and TikTok content creator, and I drew the whole thing out. Everything looked great. I started adding the colors in, and I added the colors into the hair. And as soon as I looked at it, I went, I hate it. And and that's normally it's such a private process.
Yeah.
So I think, for people to realize the first thing you do is not always a home run. I made my own logo on stream recently, and I'm not thrilled with it. I'm already working on version 2.0 because I think it could be better.
It doesn't matter because that's what he says right now. But what he's really saying is, even if I really liked it, I'd still be working on 2.0 because that's who we are. It's what we do.
Enough is never enough for us, and I think the reason this has worked for so long is not only do we want ourselves to be better, we want each other to be better because we know there's bigger things for both of us on the other side of being better.
Well, I think
we challenge each other in really unique ways where most people think a friend will just support you, but we know that a friend is going to challenge you to be better.
So that's the last question, right? Is why are we still friends?
Because we want more for each other.
Yeah.
We know that let's run the list, right? We know that bosses that we've nicknamed after Star Wars villains and destructive devices are not always right. Yep. Right? You can be the low man on the totem pole and still be a leader. You don't need the word executive or president or whatever in your title to be right. And sometimes that can be it's a little incestuous. We're like, well, yeah, of course you're right. You're my friend. But it's not just.
No, I mean, I've completely told you you're wrong before. And you've done the same for me. Yeah. It's
because we've wanted each other to pursue. This is going to sound cheesy, but we've wanted each other to pursue the most noble of achievements so that we could be greater both personally and professionally.
Yeah, it's I mean, I've always maintained that, and there have been a lot of people to help the Agent Palmer brand over the years.
Yeah.
But I've always maintained your persona non grata. You are the first person I try and bring with me if I do this for a legit I can make money doing this, and I can pay someone. You're the first on the call sheet because you've written a few things for me. I'd love for you to write more. I love your writing. I know also, it's one of those things where there was a time a couple years ago where you started writing a novel / short stories in note form and sending me texts of here's is, and I put it together in a Google Doc.
Right. Yeah. Cause
I was like, all right, let's do this.
Well, and then there's other things like that. I thought about recently, so we started the Twitch and we're helping each other with that. Cause once I make enough to get a payout, I'm definitely dishing back out. Cause part of what we want to do with the Twitch is build a good place on the internet. There's, recently at the time of this recording, within the last month, 2 prominent Twitch streamers have committed suicide. Suicide has touched me personally. So I'm very aware of the impact of a toxic internet culture is, and we're building the complete opposite of that. We want people to feel welcome on the stream. But one of the things that I had attempted to write for you, I think would translate very well into Twitch content, which is what we had called Legend of Zelda Quest of Chronology, which is where we would play through the games in the order of the Nintendo official timeline.
Yeah.
So like we've never had. I feel like we've definitely had bad ideas. Yes. We've also had bad ideas we've also had ideas that we were ahead of our own time with.
Yeah, I think the Twitch thing is very interesting to me because of the way the dynamic works, because you and I together are what I like to call a good community. And that's a community of two. And what ends up happening, because I am me, is that if you add one third person to that, there's always going to be too much me. Like, I admit that completely.
It's like Christmas, but with more me.
I am always going to be the too abrasive one, and you've put up with it, and you understand it, and you know how to work with it. And it's one of those things where, like, that third person, whoever it is, can't. Right? But in Twitch, the community we're building, there's a few more people around that are like you. And I'm trying to take a back seat. So, like, it's not like we're going to build a community that actually works, as opposed to just you and me, which just works just as it is. And it's one of the endearing qualities. Like, I have tendencies. And everybody who's close to me puts up with them in some way, shape, or form. And that is probably the number one reason why we're friends. And I love you.
So. Because I'll put up with your tendencies? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, and there's love there, you know.
No, there is, and you know, it's funny. Like it's become this weird faux pas, right? So let's get into the meta of society for a second, because it's become faux pas for like two grown adult men, not in a physical or emotional relationship, to be like, I love you, man, and like I can no longer count on all my digits the amount of times that like you and I will have like a tough conversation. I'll be like, I love you, man. Let's get back at it tomorrow. Like,
yeah.
And because it's real, and a lot of people aren't fortunate enough to get a friendship that goes that far.
That's true. Yeah. I mean, there are people from our original college circle that are coming back, but and it's not that they left, but people grow apart. And then maybe they come back or whatever, you know, the internet's kind of made it close. Like they've always been there, but they haven't really been there.
Well, and social media is a fake. It's a false sense of comfort, because we're not connected. Social media connects us, but not in the way that like being up until 3:00 in the morning talking about shit did. Yeah. Or sitting around in a room together and not even drinking. Like we weren't even like drinking in college. No. And like just that camaraderie, that level of, and like if you have to drink to be around those people, those aren't your friends. Those are your drinking buddies. That's a different class.
Yeah, that's a very different class. We are a class unto ourselves.
Well, I don't know if class is the word for us, but what is it? Kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, species. We're like our own species, I think, sometimes, man.
Okay. All right. I mean, if you want to lower us below class, that's fine.
I don't think I have much class, but you tend to think more highly of me. So,
well, that's where you're wrong, because you tend to think more highly of me.
Well, that's why the friendship is there.
Wikipedia defines friendship as a relationship of mutual affection between people. My trusty Funkin' Wagnalls defines it as a mutual regard cherished by kindred minds. Both are accurate, and while the second may be more to my liking, and not just because it's much more poetic, friendship, while it can be defined by definition, is mainly defined by experience. Whether you are still, as I am, friends with someone from high school or college, or someone from long ago or more recent, you don't need a definition to know who your friends are. You just know. But how do you know? That's the whole reason for this 4-episode series. Perhaps there will be some commonality between my 4 closest friends, but perhaps I'm the only common theme. No matter the theme, the consistencies, or the aberrations, one thing remains true. These are my friends by any definition. Thanks for listening to the Palmer Files, episode 26. As a reminder, all links are available in the show notes, and now for the official business. The Palmer Files releases every 2 weeks on Tuesdays. If you're still listening, I encourage you to join the discussion. You can tweet me at Agent Palmer, the show at The Palmer Files, and my friend Chris at TriforceDad1984. You can also follow him on Instagram or Twitch, where I occasionally join him on stream, also at TriforceDad1984. You can see all of my writings and rantings on agentpalmer.com, and all links will be available in the show notes. Email can be sent to the show at thepalmerfiles@gmail.com if you have any feedback on this or any previous episode, or if there's a topic or guest you'd like me to consider, or what your thoughts are on this series. You can also hear more of me in the meantime on Our Liner Notes, a musical conversation podcast with host Chris Maier, and my other gig as co-host of the Podcast Digest with Dan Lizette. Chris, do you have one final question for me?
I do. So you and I have started blogs and podcasts and graphic design companies and website companies and Twitch streams together. So in a perfect world where we actually got to make money off of a thing together, because let's be honest, we haven't figured that part out yet. Nope. What would you like to do that you also don't think would destroy our friendship? Because sometimes working together with a person can really impact the way that you look at that person long term. So what would you want to do in a perfect world, and not even where money isn't an object, but we've got to make money doing it? What would you want to do together, both as friends and as business partners?
So first of all, I just want to say, you and I, one of the things that endears us to each other is that we treat everything like it's professional. We didn't start the Twitch stream like, oh, maybe. And I didn't start the blog like, oh, maybe. Like, yeah, they were experiments, but we were going to treat them as professional endeavors, because if you're going to do something, do it, right?
When you do things well, people won't be sure you've done anything at all.
Which is actually very accurate, because like I've spent hours editing or writing or drafting, or, you know, for some posts on some movie reviews, like watched a movie 3 times because I'm like, where's my angle? Like, I like this movie, but how do I write about that? I'm not just going to be like, it's good. Anyway, all of that aside, right? I think it's, and I'm going to think of the biggest, most pop culture thing I can think of. It's Nerdist, right? And whether it's under the Palmer brand, which I think is probably the way I would go, but it would just be like, all right, here's Agent Palmer, which would be as synonymous as here's Nerdist. And what is Nerdist? It's a blog. It's a podcast. It's video content. It's all of the things we're doing under one umbrella. I hesitate to say media corporation, but Nerdist did collaborate on other things.
It fits with everything we've built to this point.
That's basically what I want to build, is an umbrella corporation where we can utilize the writing, the audio, the video, the design. I want to use everything, because I don't want to say like, you and I'll do a blog, because not that we'll get sick of it, but like, we want to do other things. Like that would be like taking a caged animal and keeping him caged. It's like, no, here's a here's the world, run.
Yeah,
so
go
it's
check
like,
it out.
all right, here's what we do. And that's what, I mean, the one thing is just basically bringing it all together under one umbrella where we do everything. That's what I want to do.
All right. So we'll figure it out. Figure it out.
Figure it out. We'll just keep going.
Yeah.
We'll just keep doing what we do.
I feel like we've been working on that for 18 years. I don't think it's going to take us another 18, but yeah, I know you're going to call me tomorrow and be like, hey, I got an idea. And as long as I can, I will always pick up. So let's go. Let's get this.